Hey guys, it's Chris and Eric. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a while. It's been a while.
It's only been 2 weeks.
That's a while.
Yeah, you know what? That is actually a while. You get used to doing something every week, and then all of a sudden you don't do it, and it feels like an eternity's gone by.
Right?
What will our loyal listeners think?
Well, that we have lives, which is fine. We're allowed to have lives.
I'm okay if people want to think that I have a life. Like I'm totally down with that. I
Um,
appreciate everybody for thinking that.
no, there's just been a lot of crazy things happening. So you guys, I already shared that I had sold my car, right? I still haven't gotten the money for it.
Mm.
They and it's by no fault of the dealership or the bank. It is the system in which transferring titles happens, which I feel like you would understand. So it's coming from Florida going to Michigan. So,
I sympathize. Let's put it
and
that
I'm just
way.
when I called the bank and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" Because I see that my auto loan is no longer there, so I'm assuming they paid it off. Um, but every time I call the dealership, they're like, "We haven't received the title yet, so we can't give you the rest of the money until we get the title because they can't sell the car without the title." Understandable. And well, since I sold the car, I am waiting for the transfer to come off of the bank's name, and instead of going to me, it is going to the dealership or something like that, which takes time. So I don't know. If I get it, I get it. At this point,
Oh
it's
no, you'll
just
get it. It's out
yeah,
there. I mean, it's not
it's
like it's going to be there forever.
right.
Eventually, you're going to have to get the title. The car's going to have to transfer.
So it's been a little over a month, but it's been freeing, man. Like not having a car payment and not having an insurance payment. I think the insurance payment is giving me more freedom than the actual car payment. And I know
All
that
right, so
sounds
how are
weird,
you
but
getting out of not having an insurance payment?
I don't have a vehicle. I
Oh,
don't need to
okay,
insure
that's
anything.
that's fair. All right, that is fair.
So that's the thing, right? Like I'm looking at my bills, and I'm like, yes, I was paying for a car monthly, um, but I had a car, and I knew that at some point that I would pay it off and not have a car payment anymore. So I factored that in, but what I didn't factor in is if I have no vehicle, I don't have to pay insurance. And even though it's a smaller amount, it's like 120 bucks a month, that's still $120 that I wasn't accounting for.
Right.
And it's just like I feel filthy fucking rich, even though I'm a poor asshole.
There you go. I mean, anytime you can cut anything out like that, it makes you feel good because you're going from paying something to paying nothing, and you don't realize how much money you're hemorrhaging until you're not hemorrhaging it anymore, and then you're like, where'd all this money come from?
Right? So,
One
speaking
day,
of
one day
feeling
we'll get
good,
there. One day I'll get
I
there.
have a topic that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
Uh, and it's
Um, Before we get too deep here, though,
okay.
I
Okay.
wanted to I wanted to provide a couple updates myself. I got a PS5, so
You
that's
son of a bitch. You can't do that while I'm drinking.
that was good. I got into the
Nice.
lottery. I won it. I paid for the extra shipping because it happened on a Thursday, and I'm like, I want it this weekend. I want it this weekend. So I paid for the 2 to 3 day shipping, and I got it on a Saturday. So I set it
Nice.
up. I got my PS Plus subscription, and I got Stray.
You got Stray?
Oh
How
yeah,
you like it?
I loved it. I already beat it.
Oh, you've already beaten it.
Now I got to go
Okay,
back
don't
and get all
don't
the
spoil it.
trophies.
You
No,
don't
no
spoil it for me.
spoilers. No spoilers.
I was gonna get it on Steam this weekend. Well, not this weekend. Sorry, next paycheck.
All right. Well, do you know what it's about at all?
A cat living in a post-apocalyptic future. I'm assuming.
So yeah,
That's all I
you're
got.
you're solving the mystery of this post-apocalyptic wasteland that no longer has humans in it, and you're trying to figure out what's going on and how to solve the issue of what's going, without telling you, obviously, how to solve the issue of what's going on. But you're also doing cat stuff. So, like, while you're solving the mystery, you're also, like, scratching furniture and marking territory, and you can rub up on people's legs and curl up and take naps. It's amazing.
Good old cats.
It's amazing, yes. But I have a PS5 now, and I got the PS Plus subscription, so now I have access to a whole bunch of games that I've never played before from, like, the PS3 library and onward. That's really cool. So,
Nice.
everybody out there, I'm looking for suggestions of some things to play.
God of War.
Got them? Well, yeah. Because I saw that on the PS3 lineup. They had the God of Wars, and I was like, okay. Missed out on those because I didn't... This is my first odd number PlayStation. Because you know how it went was I had a Nintendo 64. I never had an original PlayStation. Then I bought my PS2 with the money I got from my summer camp job. That was the whole point, was, you know, that's how you learn how to appreciate stuff. You get your first job, and your parents are like, well, now that you've got your own money, you can use this for whatever you want. I'm like, I want a PS2, because I also want a DVD player. And that's what I got.
Which is the cool thing to do.
Right.
I think that's where Xbox failed.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't get an Xbox. And when the next gen came out, one of my friends had an Xbox 360, and I found out that all my friends had Xbox 360s. So instead of a PS3, I got a 360. And then here comes the Xbox One, and I'm like, this sucks. This looks awful. The PS4 looks so much better, so I went back to Sony.
They flip-flop back and forth a lot. Yeah, I will say that I went the other way around, right? Like I didn't. Well, that's not true because I got the 360 and the PS3 because I was highballing at the time. It was just like Nintendo, sure. Xbox, yeah. Sony, fuck yeah. Why not? I have all this money. I don't have any responsibilities.
Yeah. That was during our Disney days, right?
Yep.
Yeah. We spent a lot of money that we didn't have when we worked there.
I know, right? Which is surprising because we didn't get paid shit, really.
No, we really didn't. I also feel like we managed our money better because we lived in cheaper apartments and we all had roommates.
Our budget was stupid. It was like, okay, we got $10 for food this week.
Mm-hmm.
We have $30 for gas this week. We have $200 for entertainment.
We have
the fucking budget.
We have a massive amount of money for our electric bill because we're running our air conditioner all the time. Because it's Florida and it's hot. I mean, it's hot right now and I'm running the air conditioner, but it's not half as bad as it was here in Pennsylvania than it is.
You can see the AC running over there. Oh, yeah. So I moved the cat tower.
Yeah, I see the kitties have moved back. Yep. Gaming chair.
Yeah. The moment I was done setting the chair up, Kitty was like, tree, I climb.
No.
And she's using it as a stand to like, or not a stand, but like, what's it called? Like a ladder to get to the top of the cat tower. And I was like, no. Cat tower going over there now.
Because we need to take the fastest path up to the cat tower at all times.
Now they jump off the TV.
So we got a step, one of those bookshelves that looks like a step, a staircase. We got that for Perry so he can walk up and down it to get on top of my dresser because he's getting older and his hips are starting to bother him because he likes to go from very high things down to the ground at full force. And then he's always limping afterwards because, yeah, he's getting old. He can't do that anymore. So we're helping him out now. We're trying to expand his life.
I wonder if cats know that. Like, they're just like, geez, why did that hurt? I felt like I was able to do this a lot the other day.
I'm sure he realizes it after he does it. And he's like, oh, that was dumb. Next time I won't do that. And then the memory of a cat.
I've had Kitty's done that. Kitty has literally jumped from the top of one of our bookshelves that we have over here. And she used to like land on her feet, and she still lands on her feet, but now the recoil is so bad that she lands on her feet and then the rest of her body. So it's just like pop. It's just like, okay. So now she just doesn't jump down that far. She goes from like case to case.
Which is funny because it's only after he gets up from something like that that his hips bother him and he's very ginger walking down the stairs. But you know my cat Perry. When he gets hyper, there's no pain. Just zoom,
Yep.
zoom, zoom. And,
Animals, man.
yeah, they're great. We've been putting a lot more content out on the YouTube channel. Dan and I have started doing Sporkle quizzes as some shorter content, and they've been a lot of fun. So we're going to start kind of like mass producing those. And I've gotten 3 streams already for my Super Nintendo project. So there are 10 games I've played now.
I've seen this. I've seen parts of the stream anyway.
Yeah, 715 to go. But that's the thing. Like, by doing multiple games a night, it's not going to take me 14 years to play through the whole library.
No, it's only going to take you like 7.
Exactly. See, exactly. But I also know the ones that I'm gonna start shortening it up, you know, by playing X amount of games that I know I'm not going to invest a lot of time into. And then what I'm also doing, like when I approach a game like Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger or Mario RPG, the long range RPGs, you know, I'm going to want to actually sit down and play. That'll be a 1-session game. But when I'm playing some of these puzzle games, like I'll play the puzzle game for 10-15 minutes, get as much as I can out of it, and then move on to the next one, which is kind of what I've been doing now, because I played a game called Draken that was just really confusing and annoying me, and I'm like, well, I can say I've played it, and I put it away. On to the next one, because the idea is to just play all the games and be able to say that I've done it. I don't have to play them well, and I don't have to beat them. I just want to be able to say I've played them. And if I do find something along the way that I enjoy and I want to revisit and do a long play of, that'll become bonus content. Like Mario World. During the first stream, I beat the first 3 castles in the game. I want to keep playing, because it's Mario World. Zelda? You already know what that's going to be. My favorite game of all time.
That's going to be a multi-day stream.
Favorite game of all time. All time favorite game.
Do you think you could beat it in one day?
If I actually put the effort in, I know I could, but it is a long game, and there are a lot of things to do. So, like...
You should hold off on that one and make it a 24-hour challenge.
Okay. Can do. Maybe for Extra Life this year in November.
Yeah. And then, well, I mean, instead of making it like a 24-hour challenge, because if you beat it within 24 hours or
you gotta have other
24
games,
hours,
yeah.
you can just be like, yeah, just do it until you complete the game.
Well, I've thought about doing a 24-hour stream for Extra Life just one time, just to be able to say I've done it. I'm considering it this year, but I think this year I'm going to do a 12-hour challenge and expand to 24. So, but we'll see.
It's like a marathon. You got to practice until you get up to it.
Exactly. But it's been fun putting out all that content and everything. New trivia night went up. The streams have been great, and it's been keeping my mind occupied and keeping my mind off of, you know, personal things. So I'm going to keep doing it. And now that I've got the better video editor and I'm starting to streamline the wrestling games a little bit more, I'm starting to come up with the Multiversal Wrestling Federation that I called it, where the matches are going to take place across all time and dimensions, which means that I'm going to bring back long dead wrestlers from the past to wrestle guys from today. But I'm also going to bring in pop culture characters, so you're going to finally see that big matchup between the Justice League and the Avengers in a 4-on-4 match. Just got to figure out which 4 are going to represent. And then, of course, you've had a couple of suggestions. I believe we're doing what are we doing? Michael Jackson versus Prince. That's right. And I've got both of them in the game, so that's going to happen. I'm going to do an entire show. I'm going to have you book like 8 matches. And I'm going to do an entire show just for you, and then you're going to call it with me.
Okay. I'll be down for that.
That's what we're going to do, yeah.
Call it like refs?
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, not like refs, but like commentators.
Okay.
But you'll choose what all the matches are and who's in them, and you can pick any pop culture character fight that you really want to see. As long as I can find the character in the community creations, I'll make it happen. And sometimes you're surprised about what I can find and what I can't find. Like, I was looking to do like a Star Wars Rumble, and it's amazing which characters are there and which ones aren't. Like, you can find video game characters, but you can't find, like, Lando Calrissian.
Really?
So it's kind of funny, like, who's there and who isn't. But then, like, our friend Adrian Cotton wanted me to do a blaxploitation battle royal. And he gave me, like, 8 characters to choose from, and I actually found 4 of them. And he was shocked about that. I'm like, well, it won't be 8, it'll be 4. He goes, I'm down. So I got Black Dynamite. That was the big one he wanted. So as long as you can find it, you'd be surprised at what you can find out there. And some of them are they just look like crap.
Jack Frost versus Santa Claus.
I mean, yeah, there's plenty of Santa Clauses. I mean, you can find Abe Lincoln's and Indiana Jones's and Batman.
You should take every version of Santa Claus and put them up against each other.
So just keep finding different Santas and just all Santas. Okay.
Yeah, just a bunch of different Santas and just put them all for that. That'll be a Christmas special.
And one's Krampus.
Which Santa is the best Santa?
And one of them is Krampus.
Yep. Krampus is gonna win.
There's like Tim Allen Santa.
So, I've been like reading some stuff on the news. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the tiny house movement.
That's like people are buying like tiny homes and
yeah, or they build them or whatnot.
Yeah, you can apparently buy one at Home Depot.
Yeah, well, they don't sell it as a tiny house, right? They sell it as a shed that meets all building requirements for it to be turned into a house, but they're not specifically designed to be houses. You have to do the rest of it to bring it up to par.
Okay.
Right?
But you also need a place to put it.
Yeah, so you need land, you need the foundation, you still need all the other stuff. But if you wanted to, you could just go out, buy one of these sheds, right? Quote unquote, and then turn it into a tiny house, and then you'll be fine. But here, I was reading this, and it got me thinking, who's in the wrong here? Because someone broke the law right here, but the law, like what it was protecting was bullshit. And I'll explain what happened. I'm not going to say the state, but you're probably going to figure it out because this state has random fires every once in a while that go up on the news. Okay, so let's get to the point. This person had a house. He built a shed as a shed, not as a tiny house. Built a shed as a shed. The shed is off grid, which means it's not connected to the electrical system there. And he put solar panels for the shed, which is 100% legal. A specific disaster, he lost his house, but the shed was fine. He then, until they could rebuild his house, he turned that into a tiny home temporarily. Since it is off grid and he turned it into a tiny home and he got the paperwork to actually turn it into a home, they slapped him with a $10,000 fine for illegally putting up solar panels to a house and going off the grid.
But his house
in
had
which
solar
case
panels.
he lost his property and now has nothing. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, without getting political,
Correct.
This definitely sounds like the government's just being a jerk because they can. That's what it sounds like to me. First of all, you said he had solar panels on his house, right?
No, he had solar panels on the shed.
Oh, he already had solar panels on the shed. Okay.
Yeah, so the solar panels on his house, I think he did have solar panels on his house, but that was tied into the grid, and he actually had that legally or whatnot.
Okay.
But the shed itself wasn't connected. It wasn't connected to the city, but he had just normal solar panels.
And that's what they have the problem with.
Yes, but it is legal to have solar panels on a shed in that state.
Okay.
If it's not connected to the grid.
So here's my question. Where the hell they want him to live when he lost his house? Like, where did they want him to go? Apparently they just wanted him to sleep in the yard?
I guess, right? or maybe have like FEMA take care of him or something. I have no idea.
Instead, he
But
adapted and didn't rely on the government's assistance, so they fined him for it, which makes no sense at all.
correct. And since he spent most of his money transforming this thing into something livable until he could get an actual property, he couldn't pay the fine, in which case he lost his property.
Which is ridiculous. Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
Stephen P. New doesn't sponsor our show, so I can't get that lawyer's advice. But I feel like I actually do have a friend that's a lawyer. Maybe he could sponsor our show. Hi, Andrew.
oh my gosh, bring him on and just like link him this
I
because I want to hear your
should.
thoughts.
I should link him this episode and be like, "Hey, Andrew, let's get some legal thoughts here." Our friend Andy just marked out when he heard me drop Andrew's name. Andrew's part of our circle.
Okay.
Yeah, Andrew was the one who when he first told. This is exactly how he told me he was going to law school. Hey, just letting you know, I'm applying for my law degree. Yes, I'm well aware that I am Jewish and about to become a lawyer. Like, that was his actual message to me. I'm like, I wasn't going to mention it, but since you did. He loved it, though. He's like, yeah, I know.
So this brought up topic between Rebecca and I. She's like, well, the law is the law and it's shitty, but you can't break the law.
That is
my
true,
thing is,
yeah.
I understand that, but if it's a God, and this is just going to be my personal opinion, if it's a victimless crime, I don't believe you are breaking. It should be considered against the law. And here's what I mean by that. I understand the whole reasoning behind the solar panels and stuff like that. It's because if you hook up solar panels by yourself without a license on a house that actually is tied to a grid, and let's say the grid goes down and a worker needs to go out and fix something, those solar panels are still producing electricity and it is dangerous for those people. So that law is there to protect them.
Okay, that's fair.
So I understand that portion of it. My half is this building was not connected to the grid. These solar panels were connected to a building that was never connected to the grid to begin with, and it was fine. The moment someone starts living in that shed because of a situation, keep in mind it's still not attached to the grid. Now it is no longer fine because it's
How did this negatively impact the city or the state is what I want to know.
correct. First off, whoever ratted him out, which I'm assuming is one of the construction workers at this point, because the only people who would know would be like him, right? The family, and the construction workers, and maybe a neighbor or two. It's a pretty big fucking property.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you have to go out of your way.
Well, with that, I
And
mean,
I was just
obviously,
like,
I need to see the property to understand that. But yeah, like I get it. Like,
right, and then obviously like, see, no one else is involved. It's not connected to the city, so I can see the fine for hey, if you want to be an actual resident, it needs to be connected, and if you want to be connected, then you have to take these down. But to be like, hey, you're doing this on purpose to be illegal is kind of like, I hope he fights it. I really do. I hope he goes like, listen, this is what happened, and someone down the stage of like the justice system gets a fucking heart and be like, okay, you lost like everything basically. Why are we continuing to like fuck this guy?
so I remember when I had my very first car accident back in college, I had to go to traffic court to pay the fine, and get sentenced with the go to take the safety class and all that stuff, right? Because the accident was my fault. Young college kid on his parents' insurance, so they're like, in lieu of I think it was in lieu of a fine. I think they gave me the ticket, and then in lieu of a fine and points on my license, I had to take a safety course, which is what they were doing all the college students. And I remember distinctly, like, waiting to go in, right? And there's other cases in front of you before they do regular traffic court. And there was a girl that they had brought in from county who had a bunch of, like, bad checks that she couldn't afford to pay. So I just kept slapping her with more fines. And it's like, so she already couldn't pay this stuff. How are you going to make her pay that? Like, the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
The punishment is more punishment on top of your punishment.
Yeah, exactly. Like it would be like I caused a car accident that I got injured in, and the other driver didn't, but then he sues me. And it's like, you already knew I got hurt. You weren't hurt. So why are we even doing this? Like, now you're just doing it to be a jerk. And I hate to say it, Eric, but I think that's just how some people are. And I think that's how, again, whoever's making this decision to do this to this guy is doing it because, well, it's the law and I'm following the law and I don't really care. Like, okay, so, like, going back to what you're talking about earlier when we're doing title transfers and things like that at my job, we deal with a lot of people who come in and who have death certificates and they're transferring title ownership over because the person on the title passed away. Now, it's not that I don't sympathize with them, but it happens so often that I'm not displaying the sympathy outright. I'm simply following the instructions of what I need to do to get the title to transfer over. Now, I'm not screwing them in any way, but if they don't come with paperwork, I have to explain that to them. And I understand things can be fresh and they can get upset about it, and it's a frustrating experience. Anytime you deal with death, it's a frustrating experience. But I also do have a job to do, and I need to follow the procedure correctly. So, in that respect, I can understand where a worker would be coming from. With that said, there's a difference between, I can't do this for you because you don't have the proper paperwork, and I'm sorry this is such a pain and you're going through this, but you have to get the proper paperwork because the state's going to reject it, and I'm trying to help you, versus your option is to live out of the elements in this shed, but because you didn't do it the way we wanted, we're going to slap you with a fine and take your property away. Now you have nothing. See the difference? So I can't sympathize with the workers in this case. Despite what I just said, I can't sympathize with the workers at all. I feel like this was a very poor moral decision that was made by somebody, and somebody in a higher up position. I'm not even saying the person who, like, reported it, because that might just be their job, right? Like, they could have literally just been like, okay, so when you got to the job site, what did you see? What was he doing? And they're just reporting what came back, and then somebody reported that, and that went higher, and then it went higher than that, and like, and then you get to the one person who you don't want to hear the thing. They hear the thing, and then they do the thing. So yeah, no, that's a crappy situation.
Dude, it's a shit situation. And then it gets me thinking about just, if you break the law, are you a bad person? And I guess it depends on the law. Like, what law you broke, right?
That's this is an interesting topic.
And this is what I wanted to talk about today. So I feel like we can go pretty in depth here. Now we're dancing around politics. We really are. But
because politicians never break the law.
Correct, right? But at some point, just because something is illegal doesn't make it immoral.
I agree. So here's the thing. I'm going to tell a story of this happened to a friend of mine from high school. I'm not going to say his name. He might be watching this, so I promise I won't say your name. I'm not going to embarrass you. He and another friend of mine back in high school got caught stealing DVDs from Walmart. What they were doing was they would go to the DVD section. They would take the DVD over to a section of the store that they knew the camera couldn't see, remove the DVD from the case, pocket the disc, leave the case behind. They did this a lot. They had a lot of DVDs. And one of them got caught because he tried to do it on his own. And obviously Walmart had a choice here. You're stealing from us. How are we going to handle this? What they did was they gave him a lifetime ban from the store, which I doubt even applies anymore. People have gotten lifetime bans from Disney, and I'm sure they've still tried to show up again. But they didn't arrest him or fine him, which they could have. So a decision was clearly made there. And it kind of boils down to, well, you were stealing DVDs from us, and maybe they only thought he stole a couple. But, you know, they just said, well, we don't want you in our store anymore. They could have fined him. They could have had him arrested. It's Walmart. What's he going to do about it? But they didn't. So what you create is a very interesting scenario here, and I think a lot of it has to do with how anybody's going to handle a situation. Now, a mom and pop store that you're stealing from that isn't doing great business is going to hurt them more than a corporation.
Agreed.
And that person might be more inclined to hit somebody with a petty theft charge and really, really take them down. And I know that, like, when I had my theft issue years ago, we had a friend stay in the house, and he stole from me, and I reported it to the police, and they caught him. I didn't necessarily want them to send him to jail. I wanted restitution for my stuff back. But my option was, we arrest him, and he pays the restitution and the fines and everything, and he goes on probation, or we don't do the case at all. So I had to make that decision, how I wanted to pursue the charges. Ultimately, I wanted my stuff back. So I went with that choice. Because that was a lot of money's worth of things that he had stolen from me. And, you know, I can't just afford to replace all that stuff. So I did what I felt like I had to do in that situation. So when you're talking about, you know, what's a victimless crime and what isn't, and part of that was also, I felt violated. I let you stay in my house so you wouldn't freeze to death. Because at the time he was homeless. He was a coworker.
See, you're the victim there. That's
right.
Not a victimless crime.
Right. So even though I was trying to still sort of be moral, because that's just the type of person I am, I also recognized that in order to get restitution, he had to pay a price, so I just went with it. I had to put my feelings aside on the matter. I would have just taken the restitution and let them put him on probation. I didn't want them to actually arrest him, but they ended up having to do it. Granted, they also got him on something stupid. He was sent to a rehab facility, and then he got caught with drugs. So, you know, I didn't exactly sympathize with that, but
right.
Exactly, that's what it boils down to. I felt victimized. I did what I had to do to feel better about the situation. And without getting personal, I'm going through situations right now where I'm trying to make amends and right some wrongs and things like that. And it can be very, very tough when you're on the other side of the coin. You want to make things better, and maybe there's somebody who's a little upset with you, and they don't really want to talk to you at the moment. So what do? You have to give them space and give them time and wait for the right moment to capitalize there. So, but going back to what you were saying, as far as like what's a victimless crime, like I think a lot of it depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. If you murder somebody, you deserve to be locked up for that. But then, at the same time, there's also different levels of murder. There's serial killers. There's people who murder in cold blood. And then there's a story, I saw this, I think it was on Reddit. It was like one of those things like, if you've done time, tell us what you did. And it was a dad who said like his 13-year-old daughter got molested by her friend's dad or something like that. And he went over and shot the guy in the head. And he said I knew what I was doing, and I knew I was going to go to jail for it, and I did my time because that's what he deserved. And it's like, okay, you definitely took a human life. You deserve to be punished for it. But I'm also kind of on your side.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I'm also kind of on his side with that
At that
one.
point, it's just like, okay, well, yeah, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Do your time. We'll let you out. Just be on good behavior after,
Yeah.
whatever his punishment is.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Is like he confessed to it. He said exactly why he did it, and he pled guilty, and that can help.
But like, okay, so for criminals who are in for murder or anything like that,
Okay.
I feel like if you were being incarcerated and kept there as a punishment, it has to be a good enough reason to keep you locked up for a really, really long time.
Right.
For instance,
If
that
you're
individual, I don't believe he's going to go out and kill again. So I don't believe that there's any future harm to anyone else. So his definitely could be shorter than someone who's just like Hannibal Lecter, for instance, right?
right, that's a good point. So you committed an act of murder. Well, what was your reason for doing it? And you find out it was a domestic argument with the girlfriend or something that got too out of control, and he hit her, or he struck her, and accidentally killed her, right? Well, yeah, you should do time for that, for taking a human life, and you should get that under control and get some psychiatric help and everything. But you're not a mass murderer who's going to go out and do it again. It happened in a one-time thing, and the punishment should fit that crime. Keeping you locked away and waste taxpayer dollars for the rest of his life just doesn't really make sense to me. Now, the guy who went out on a killing spree, took a gun into a mall and started shooting people for sport, that person should be locked up for good, because that's somebody who can get out and murder again. So
And probably will, yeah.
And probably will, exactly. And that was another thing. Like, I've seen stories where, like, people have been locked up for crimes, and they said the chances of rehab were slim to nil, and they weren't in for lifetime sentences. I'm like, you can't let that person back out if you're not going to be able to rehab them. They're just going to do it again. And that's why I'm in favor of things like, instead of sentencing a drug abuser to jail, sentence them to a rehab facility and help get them cleaned up, and sentence them to mandatory psychiatric help. Why lock them up and put them in a situation where they're probably going to do more drugs and also possibly commit more crimes in prison, because that happens. So the punishment has to fit the crime.
Yes. Agreed.
This is why we should form our own country.
Yeah, we'd be terrible at it. We'd have all these good ideas, and then something weird would happen. We're like, oh, I have no idea. Give him a banana, I guess. I don't know. I agree with pretty much everything you said. The punishment should fit the crime, and the punishment, it really depends. If it was an accident, that's one thing. I'm not saying like if you take a human life, there definitely should be a punishment.
If you cause a car accident
or not,
if you cause a car accident and somebody dies in that car accident, you're also a victim, because you now have to live with that knowledge.
Yes.
And it could have been an accident. You could have just lost control in the rain, struck another vehicle, and somebody in that vehicle died. Is that not punishment enough that person now has to live with that knowledge? What good is locking that person up for like a manslaughter charge going to do? It's not going to do anything. Now, if he was drunk, different story. That's a conscious decision. If he's
drunk and it was an accident, I would no longer consider that an accident. It was your choice to get into the vehicle knowing that you were drunk.
For those types of punishments, you should lose your driver's license for extended periods of time. For the accident purpose, I would say probation is fair. You're on a probationary license now. We don't want you to do anything. Don't do anything. No speeding. No running red lights, nothing like that. Be a good
Now,
driver.
you work with changing titles and stuff for people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, registered your driver's license, right?
You broke up a little bit there.
Oh, to get a vehicle registered, you need a driver's license, correct?
Correct.
All right. To purchase a car, do you need a driver's license?
I feel like you should have one,
I do too.
but you don't need it.
You do not need one.
You do not need one.
If you wanted to register it or get it registered and drive it off the lot, yes, you do. But if you wanted to purchase the vehicle and you tell them, "Oh, I am purchasing this vehicle for the intent of using it off road," all you need is a buddy with a trailer, and he can just put it on the back of his trailer and drive off.
Yep. So you're correct, and I definitely agree that, like, yeah, if you're gonna register the vehicle and you want to leave the building with a plate and a registration, then I want to see a driver's license, a valid driver's license. Even if it expired yesterday, I have to reject it. Same thing with insurance policies. We have to have valid insurance policies. And a big problem we have are people will bring in their newest policy, and it'll be like, oh, this policy starts on August 1st, and they would have shown up today. We're recording this on July 31st, and I can't accept that. Because I need to see that you're insured for today. Because for all I know, you're not, and you just bought a new policy that kicks off tomorrow. But you can't drive today. I have to see,
Right.
and that's also the same thing. If they showed up today and their insurance expired on July 31st, I have to accept it. Even if they don't have insurance, their insurance is about to lapse. It doesn't matter. They had insurance when they registered the vehicle. Those are the rules that the state set in place. So, okay, so let me ask you this. As far as, like, because you're talking about the concept of victimless crimes and everything, and we're on cars right now. So what do you feel about things like fines and everything for forgettable things, like cop pulls you over, your tail lights out, and he wants to ticket you for it. You legitimately didn't know. Do you think that that's fair? Because who's checking their taillights every time they pull out of their driveway?
You know what? It's funny that you would mention this. I feel like traffic violations that are not due to you speeding or swerving, like non-movement violations.
Non-reckless, careless movements, yeah.
Right. I feel like those should be warnings because, one, if a cop pulls you over, they already have your license and registration information because that's normally what they ask for, right? They can then tell you, hey, I pulled you over for this reason. You have a tail light out or brake light's not working or whatever it is. Please get those fixed. I'm going to issue you some sort of citation that doesn't have an amount, right? Like it's not a charge. There's no fee attached to it. And what that piece of paper states is that you've already been pulled over for this. And you have 48 hours, let's say 2 days, to get this fixed, or the next time you do get pulled over, then yes, you will get a fine.
Okay. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, because all the computers talk to each other now. Like, right, we have the Internet of Things. You have people's phones that can talk to a fridge halfway across the world.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why a one computer system can't talk to another.
Somebody programmed Doom into a Lego brick.
Exactly. You could play Doom on a pregnancy test.
Yeah, exactly.
You're telling me that I can't fucking figure this shit out?
Yeah,
anyway.
Exactly.
So I feel like you should always start off with a warning. The fact that they just go straight to fines right away, it's bogus. And I understand, like, oh, well, you need money for the police department, but, like, that's what the fucking taxes are for. Why am I paying state taxes then?
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, okay, so if you're just gonna like set up a speed trap and pull over everybody that's speeding, that's great because you're gonna definitely catch people and get them to slow down. In a lot of those cases, just that warning is enough to get people to slow down because now they're nervous. And I know that, like, because I've got, I know people that are cops and I've talked to them before. There are cops that will literally sit there, like on the highway when they're sitting there. They're not actually doing that to catch speeders. They're doing it so that you'll see them and you'll slow down. So they're making the road safer.
Yeah. Just slow the fuck down.
Yes. And yes, there are cops that are jerks, but like it's been said before, this is a great line in Tucker Max's books when he talks about the time he got arrested for drunk driving in New York City. And he's like, look, yes, some cops are dicks, but most cops became cops because they wanted to genuinely catch real criminals and help the community. And a majority of cops are like that. And, there's some bad ones. We could do a whole episode on that. I don't want to get into that because those ones will get me started on rants I don't want to go on. But a lot of cops, that's exactly why they became cops. They wanted to help people. They want to catch real criminals and make the world safer. So sometimes just their presence alone will make things safer because you see a cop, you're going to start second guessing things. Why are police present during Halloween Horror Nights instead of just regular universal security? Because you're less likely to do your stupid drunken idiocy when there's Orange County sheriffs watching you as opposed to just standard theme park security.
Are they though?
Well, people are going to be the stupid people are going to be stupid no matter what. And we've both been to Horror Nights and we've both seen stupid stuff.
I've seen a turkey leg up someone's ass. Yes. I will say people do stupid shit.
I watched a guy put out a cigarette on my coworker because he told him to stop smoking in line. And he took the cigarette and literally put it out on his chest with a smirk on his face. And then I watched the guy get sent away in handcuffs. So yes, I understand that people are still going to do stupid things. But what's the point of a deterrent? It's to deter. Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're less likely okay, so like if the cop is watching you, the people who are going to try to get away with shit are going to try to get away with it anyway, but the people who are second guessing it aren't going to try now. The percentage goes down immediately. And that's true with anything, right? Like if you're doing something at your job and you get a warning for it, like if you get a safety warning at Disney, right? And you didn't get a write-up or anything. They just said, "Hey, we noticed that you're doing this. Don't do that anymore." Are you going to be more conscious to how you're doing that stuff?
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Did the warning work? Exactly. And that's why,
I feel like those warnings are like, hey, you didn't notice that you're doing something wrong and we're showing you what you're doing wrong. But there are people out there who just do things wrong because they want to do things wrong.
Exactly.
And I've been on both sides of those.
You and I were both trainers, and we were both fond of the line. So this is what the book tells you. Here's how we do it.
Yes,
and we both did that one.
Very much so.
But we never violated any safety by doing stuff like that. We were just like, this is a rule that's in place, and it's really stupid, and it actually negatively affects the operation. We found a way to do it that doesn't hurt anybody and actually helps. So we're going to teach you our way of doing it. But still, you should know that this is what it technically says.
Yeah. If they ask you, this is what you're doing.
This is what you're doing.
This is this is what you're going to do.
Let me show you how we do it.
So my things on like the victimless crimes are crimes that, and believe it or not, there are people who have been put away for this. Let's say just smoking a joint in your front yard. You get caught. You get arrested. Who'd you hurt there?
I know people
just like, oh, well, what if he got in a car? I'm just like, well, people could still drink and get in a car. People could still, do their prescription drugs and get in a car. That's why the DUI is there. It's just like that. That's the law. And you know what?
And people do more dangerous stuff than just driving high anyway. Driving drunk. I mean, distracted driving is any kind of distracted driving, whether you're texting or you're eating or you're putting on makeup or like that's the whole thing, right? Is
You know what gets me every time that I'm driving that makes me look around like a fucking lunatic? There's some songs that have sirens in them that make it sound like police sirens.
mm-hmm.
That one day I heard it, I went, "What the fuck?" And I looked around and almost got into an accident because of that. Because I'm just like, is it me? Am I getting pulled over? Where's the cop? I don't see the cop. Oh shit, there's something stopped right in front of me. Fucking hate that shit.
Right. But again, it's a distracted driving crime, depending on what you're being distracted. Like that's something if like the seatbelt thing, right? They're ticketing you because if you cause an accident, you're gonna get severely injured, and they're doing like, don't do this. Put your seatbelt on. Stop being stupid. Like my car won't even let me drive if I don't have the seatbelt on. The little buzzer will start going off, and it gets annoying real fast if it detects weight in the car and you're not buckled up, because that's what all the newer cars have. So the only way I'm getting around that is if I buckle up behind me, but what's the actual point of that? I get into an accident, I'm getting severely injured. So, but a lot of it has to do with, like you're saying, it's all about who's the victim here. If I'm smoking in my front yard, who's being victimized? Did some little kid run by and see that and now be exposed to, like, I wouldn't offer him any, right?
I mean, right, but even if a kid just walks by, it's not like you're flashing your balls or anything. You're on your own property and
yeah, that's not gonna fly even if I am on my own property. They're gonna be like, oh no.
right. But like all at best he might know the smell and it'd be like, oh, okay, that's not a cigarette, you know? But like really it's not hurting anybody.
Well, it's kind of like like you want
to. There are other things. This is the more moral stuff, right? I'm about to go dark, pretty dark.
All right.
Breaking a crime for your morals, knowing that something is illegal, doing it anyway because you think it's the right thing, or you know it's the right thing. Let's go World War II.
All right.
Anne Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Completely illegal. Was it completely immoral?
Absolutely not.
What if there are similar situations now that are like that we don't know of, but later on in the future, just like, yeah, it was a pretty fucked up crime. I don't understand why that was illegal.
It's just it, right? That's what happens. Like, going back to what we were just talking about with the whole legalization of marijuana thing. Well, if you're going to start legalizing it in states, why are there people incarcerated for it? Still, you need to let those people go because you can argue, well, it was a crime when they committed it. Well, it's not anymore. You know what?
And if that was their only crime, then it's like there's a difference between like, okay, they got arrested for possession, versus okay, they got arrested for possession, but they also had like were shooting at the cops and whatnot, because the initial crime was this, but then they started, and then they got like other crimes on top of it, right?
Right. Exactly, and that happens a lot too. Like the people. I mean, that's what happens. You get pulled over for a traffic violation and you run. Now, when the cops catch you, you're going to jail immediately for evading arrest.
Right.
At the very least, you're going for evading arrest. Not to mention all the other stuff they're going to hit you with, which will probably be speeding and all these other moving violations that you just earned, where you could have just taken the ticket and left. And those are always the people who are stupid because it's like, oh, well, I didn't have a license and I was really afraid that I was going to get in trouble. Well, now you're in even more trouble. I was watching I think it was one of those A&E videos that like they kind of follow the cops around, and there was a kid who they caught impersonating a police officer, And when they put him in the back of the squad car, he just starts bawling hysterically. And one of the things you hear him say is, it's amazing how one bad decision can completely mess up your life. And at that time, I'm just like, yeah, that's a serious crime, but do we really need to, like, mess up the whole kid's life over it? Like, if you commit a crime and you're genuinely apologetic about it and willing to fix the situation, then you should be given a second chance. Whereas if you're just a repeat offender and you just keep going back to jail for the same stupid thing, well, now I'm at the point where it's like, well, why are we bothering letting you back out anyway? You know, where do you draw the line there?
Right? I mean, but at the same point,
But it
I
boils
don't
down to
like
what
the
they're
idea
doing,
of
too.
locking people up unless they're going to be a risk to someone else or themselves.
Yeah, a danger.
Uh,
Exactly.
a danger to someone else or themselves, right? But like if someone every time they get out, they go and do like graffiti on the side of a building. Yeah, if they're committing a crime, it fucking sucks. But you're really gonna lock them up for 15 years for some like spray paint.
Yeah. At that point,
Like,
just fine them and make the fine bigger every time. Be like, look, we've already given you a chance here. Now we're actually going to fine you. Now we're gonna. Oh, you did it again? Well, now instead of $1,000 fine, now it's two. You did it again? It's up to three. You want to go for five? Do it again. Like,
well, I mean, at that point, they clearly don't care. They're not going to be able to pay it back. And what
yeah,
do you do for the people who can't pay it?
that's true. Well, now you should put them on some kind of a force work release program. Okay, well, you're gonna pay us
I feel
back.
like labored hours is probably better than a fine
Yeah,
because
I will
even
agree with that.
even if you make millions and millions of dollars a year, if you got slapped with a okay, well, you owe us 180 hours of community service, your hours are the same as someone's hours who's making $10 an hour. Like you only have so much time in a day. You need to work off those hours,
Well, that's
right?
just it, right? Like, the richer you are, the less that some of these crimes even are. Like, you can just park in a handicap spot and get the ticket for it and just pay it because it doesn't matter because you can afford to pay it.
If the punishment is a fine, if the punishment of a crime is a fine, then it was never meant as a. It's only a crime on the poor.
Exactly, and that's a true statement because if you're rich and you can just pay off whatever fines you want, then you're not going to care. Oh, let
Correct.
them fine me. I don't care. What is it? $120? You know, that's pocket change to some people. So, but
Exactly.
like what you're saying, 120 hours of community service. Yup. Because if we fine you, it's not going to hurt you. This will. Punishment fits the
And
crime.
and you know what the fucked up part is? A lot of these rich people don't even work, so they could probably still do all that within like a month,
Hmm.
right? And meanwhile, the people who have to work to survive will probably have to do 10 or 20 hours a week on the weekends. They like do 2 10-hour days to work it off. So it's going to take them a way longer than someone who's got free time up the wazoo.
Yeah. But you can also structure
So it's
that
still
too.
not balanced.
You'd be like, no, you're going to
Yeah,
do.
just structure it for it's the same 10 hours every week for this long.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you have a limited amount of time and how many times you could do it a week. That way it's bothersome the same amount no
And
matter what.
and they schedule it and you
Um,
have to make that schedule.
correct.
Well, that's
Have
not
them
fair.
schedule it and
I was going to
and
take
do
my
it
kid to Disney
overriding the
that day.
work. Well, sucks to suck.
Yeah,
Shouldn't
well,
have done the crime.
shouldn't have done the crime. Take him another time.
And make it so you can't be excused because of work or whatever. So make it like mandatory, like with jury duty, right? You get this little waiver saying, "Hey, I'm going to be doing community service every Saturday for the next fucking year, or whatever it is." I
Yeah,
think that'd be a better system for than fines.
I agree.
Uh, yeah, and then for people who keep getting in for, let's say, the spray paint, make them go to on top of the community service, which is the actual punishment, some sort of rehab, or for people who are like doing drugs or whatnot. mandatory rehab once a week as a thing, plus community service. I feel like more rehab than community service, so maybe you can just interchange them too.
All right, look, you're
So that way
dangerous.
you can
You're
guarantee they get the help that they need.
yeah. Um yeah, if you're abusing drugs, get that person some help and get them to get off of it. Now, if you're the one dealing the drugs and you're out there hurting people, I could say that could be jail time.
Yeah,
You know, you're the one
and
peddling the heroin and
it
making the
may end up
meth.
having to be both,
Yeah.
right? Like it may end up being both. If you doing drugs on your own, um, it's whatever. But if you are not yourself, and you know if you're not yourself when you do drugs, I feel like maybe locked up in a different facility, not really meant for criminals per se, but being locked up in a rehab type center is probably more beneficial than being incarcerated for like no the murder.
Right.
Either way, you should be removed from the public where you're still a danger to, even though it's not like guaranteed, but you're not. It in a way it is kind of like you are a danger to people because you're unpredictable, right? It's not like you're a danger to people because you want to stab somebody. We just don't know what the fuck you want whenever you're on drugs. So we'll put you over here. You go to rehab, try to get you back into society somehow. And that's another thing, right? Like you got to look at it the other way, and it's really kind of shitty because I'm on both sides of this, and I know it, and I'm trying to work on it, but we know that these people coming out of rehab need a second chance. They need to go back into society where they can be part of the workflow and then like have a productive life and whatnot. But at the same time, I don't want it to be at my work location because of the success rate of these is not high. We haven't figured out a way to be like, bam, you're no longer an addict. Everything's fun and dandy. It's always like you always hear these relapse stories and they're fucking disastrous. So I'm kind of on the fence. Like, yes, I know they need something, but not near me. And that's kind of fucked up. I know it's
Well,
fucked up.
I believe that a business should have the right to hire who they want and how they want, but there should be some form of type of work that you can put somebody at in some type of a business environment that would be accepting of them and give them that second chance. Because obviously, if you give everybody free reign to make the choice, you're going to have a lot more people saying no than yes. But at the same time, you also can't force the business. You can't force the business to take somebody in, but you have to get this person work and get them to figure something out. So, like,
I feel like more opportunities for entrepreneurship at that point then. Because there's a lot of people that I know personally that when they got out of jail, they learned a skill set. They learned how to tattoo.
okay.
They got their license, they learned what they actually needed, and then they just opened up a tattoo shop. And like, yeah, it's fucking perfect. I mean, at that point, you're going in for a tattoo. You want somebody who's good at art. They have a lot of experience just doing tattoos in general, unfortunately. And but they also have the work, and their shit is cool. You're going there. You're giving them money. They're running a business at that point.
Yeah.
They're successful. They're back in society, and I feel like that's a good success story.
I
Um,
also believe very strongly that a criminal background shouldn't just disqualify you from a job because, well, what kind of a criminal background do you have? If you're a non-violent type offender and, like, okay, so if I'm hiring somebody, right?
okay.
And let's go back to when I worked at the hotel, when I actually was in charge of hiring. If somebody had a criminal background, I always wanted to know what the criminal background specific charges were, okay? If they were involved with things like theft, then I wasn't going to hire them because I wouldn't be able to trust them around the cash drawer. I'd be concerned about that. So somebody who has a habit of stealing, I'm probably not going to want to hire them. But if their entire criminal history is based on things like moving violations or like you have a criminal history because you've caused an accident or something like, and it wouldn't affect what the job I need them to do is, then yeah, I might give them a chance.
I would say yes to a point, and hear me out, right? Like, if you got arrested for stealing,
Mm-hmm.
we'll use your example. I would be like, how would you feel about a tipped bar position?
Okay.
And here's why, right? You have to know that bartenders get tipped very well,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's always cameras on them. I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee you they're not going to steal because they're going to be paid very well because of the tips. So that register, I feel like they already know that the camera's on them and they're at a position where they're making good money. If it's something that like a violent crime, I would not put them in a customer role or
Correct.
a customer service role.
Correct.
Um, I would try to find something either like a stocking position or a warehouse position or something where they don't have front facing customer service.
Mm-hmm.
If it's someone like who was an addict, I'm not hiring them at the pharmacy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
like I would
You don't
try
want
to
to
keep
put
them
them in an
away.
environment like that.
Correct. The theft one is very difficult because the whole point of that is like there's really no position you could put somebody who steals where it's going to be advantageous unless it is a customer service role that there is no products to steal or products so big that they can't steal.
Give them a customer service rep line and have them work from home. What are they going to steal?
There you go. That's one way.
Exactly. And well, and also we're also focusing on a
Don't do
lot.
it. Don't.
I love it.
Cat did it.
Yeah. We're also focusing on a lot of very specific crimes too, when we have to also consider things like white collar crimes like embezzlement. Like that could be harder to get somebody back out there for because you don't want to put that's something you'd have to put them in a blue collar job for because you don't want them to have access to computers.
Yeah. Um. It's very hard for like Ponzi schemes in general, or pyramid schemes, or whatever you want to call them. These white collar crimes. These people who take investor money and just spend it on whatever. Here's how I feel about that. You invested your money. You put your money into a stock,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, the CEO takes all of that money and buys a mansion. And then the company goes bankrupt and you lose all your money. And he's like, oh, well, I tried. No, we stole money. And all they get is arrested for a little bit. And then they come back out and they still have that mansion. I feel like anything that was purchased with your money should be immediately sold to recover. That way they can give it back to the investors, even though it may not be as much as you put in. They don't lose fucking everything.
I agree.
Ponzi schemes are fucking harder to do.
Yeah, I
Ponzi
agree with
schemes is
that.
because I, you know the whole thing about pyramid schemes, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, the money belongs to everybody, and it just funnels up and up and up, and they promise that it trickles down, but it only trickles down to a point, and then once it's the income of money like peaks, everything fucking collapses, and you just need to get out before then. It's kind of a math game because you can make money in a pyramid scheme. I fucking hate the fact that I just said that, but you can make money in a pyramid scheme if you get in early enough and get out before it collapses.
All
So
right.
that's why, yeah.
I've got a question for you. This is something I'm
Sure.
just thinking of. Talking about the punishment fitting the crime. Let's go back to that for a second. And I think your dog has an opinion as well.
Yep.
Do you believe the victim should get a say in what the punishment is?
Depends on the crime and the reason on why they did it.
Okay. Because, yes, granted, I know that that is something that lawyers do. They talk to the victim and they figure out what they want to pursue out of this. But I believe that depending on the victim, they should have a say in what happens to the person that wronged them, depending on the type of punishment they're going to pursue. If somebody murders somebody I love out of cold blood for no reason, they just decided they were going to murder somebody, I would want that person locked up for good, possibly even a step beyond that, because there would have been no rhyme or reason for it, and I would probably be dealing with a lot of difficult emotions, because now I have to live the rest of my life without this person knowing what this person, what this other person did, and I'm going to want justice in the swiftest possible way. But if...
I'd give it to you. On a crime that severe, especially if it was deliberate, I feel like, okay, well, the victim gets to choose the punishment.
But now let's say that I lose somebody I love because they were driving and they get struck by a truck. Truck ran the red light, and the company that owns the truck and everything is taking care of the situation. We've gone to court with them, and they're willing to offer me a payout. And they say, well, what do you want to happen to the driver? Do I want that driver to go to jail? How do I feel about that?
I feel
Am
like
I allowed to get a say, is what I'm saying.
I feel like it depends on the situation.
Right. And
we
I think
both
that's
know
true.
we both know that we've been driving. We've driven for a living before, is what I meant to say.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's laws for how many hours you could drive in a day.
Yep.
So we would need to. I know for me, I would like to know how long that driver was driving that particular day. What happened that caused him to run the red light? Was he falling asleep because he was overworked? If it was because he was driving too long, because the company made him drive,
right,
for so long, and it literally boiled down to this company forced this driver into a dangerous situation, then as much as I would be angry at the driver, the company is at fault. And I would be after that company, because I know me as a human being, if it was me and I know I accidentally took a life, like you said, that's just going to follow you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
so I would let the victim know that circumstance, and I would listen to what he would have to say, but ultimately I know that it would be coming down to this was negligence due to the company.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And I, as an intelligent human being, would recognize that, and I would make that a point in the court case and be like, they can fire the driver, whatever they want to do, but in reality, this falls on them. Now if I find out that the driver was abusing drugs or something like that,
Or
and
lying about how much time he has been
or
driving.
lying, yeah, or just causing a violation, or he just wasn't paying attention, then yeah, I'm probably still going after the company, but now I might be going after the driver more personally because you just did something stupid. And that's another thing too. Like people will sometimes make a bad judgment call, and that doesn't mean that they have to suffer the rest of their life because they made a bad judgment call. Like you're at a party, somebody offers you some heroin and you shoot it up, and the party gets raided, the cops arrest you for possession, and you just made that one stupid decision. What good's it going to do to make that follow you the rest of your life? Because now you have to deal with the fact that you got arrested, you got embarrassed. That's on your record now. Like,
Well, damn, dude, fucking heroin. You went hard for that one.
I went hard for that one, yeah. But I think what it all boils down to, and I think the whole point of why we're having this conversation in the first place, is a lot of it is it can't be black and white. It just can't. These situations can't be black and white. There's always going to be a gray area. There's always going to be
the human condition.
Yeah.
Someone needs to have a heart and a say in this thing. It can't be a blanketed statement. These fucking rules that apply to 90%. Well, what about the 10%? Because that 10% happens more than 10% of the time.
It's like the law of we can fire you for whatever reason we want to. Like people put that in their contracts when you sign up for jobs. And that's literally, so like when they say they can fire you for whatever reason they want to, they just got to come up with an excuse at that point.
Yep.
They don't have to fire you for the specific reason they want to fire you for. They just come up with a different reason and use it, and you're powerless to do anything about it. You can't. They'll just say, "Oh, well, you were late to work on this day, and this day, and that's 3 lates, and you're unreliable, so we're going to fire you for being late." Even though the real reason they want to fire you is
you're a piece of shit and you annoy the fuck out of everybody.
Could be a discriminatory reason.
Yeah.
And that's
why happened a lot.
So this happened again. I'm going to tell some more hotel stories. When I was manager at the hotel, we had a situation where my second shift guy checked a guy in with a bad credit card. And if they don't have a credit card on file, we're not supposed to let them stay, period. But what this guy did was he paid in cash, and he put down a cash deposit in lieu of the credit card on file, which technically we're allowed to do, but I don't like that. So, of course, what ended up happening was the guy, or maybe he did have a credit card and it declined or something, but it doesn't matter. We found him. He was doing drugs in his room. It was obvious he was doing drugs in the room because you could smell it in the hallway. And when we tried to knock on the door, he wouldn't answer it for us. So the general manager called the police and had them get rid of him. And that's what we did. We kicked him out of the hotel. And he goes, "I want you to write him up." I said, he goes, he made a bad judgment call. He needs to be written up for this. Okay, yeah, he did make a bad judgment call here. But I didn't feel like he needed to be written up for it. So here's what I did. I brought him into my office. I sat him down. I explained the situation. I explained the problem. I said, "I know you're technically following the rules and everything, but if they've got bad credit cards, we just don't want them here. Like, you're going to have to say no." And of course, he said something like, "Well, he seemed like a cool guy, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure he did. But we have to also make a judgment call here as far as the hotel is concerned. Yes, human condition, morality, and all that. But just because the guy seems cool doesn't mean he's going to not cause us an issue. In this situation, you probably should have declined him. And now dealing what we're dealing with, you absolutely should have declined him." But the reason I didn't actually write him up was because he didn't cost the hotel anything. He didn't cost us any money because he had the cash deposit. The room was still paid for, and I think even when they were booting him out, I think the cops were even there with him and making sure like he paid for the night, because he did stay the night. So we weren't going to like lose that money. But do I need to write up my employee for that?
No, especially if at any part of the thing it says you can substitute, then nothing was broken there.
And that was my argument. I didn't think he did anything that deserved an actual write-up. But what I did tell him was I said, okay, the next time this happens, it's going to be a write-up.
I think at that point it would have been a reason to change to make sure that if they don't have a credit card, they cannot. At that point, change the entire
I
procedure.
agree. And you can tell how well that probably went over. Because, they want the business.
You can't have multiple parts of like the training or whatever the procedure is going to be state one thing, but it rarely happens, and then on the rare chance that it does happen and it does say, well, I guess I can do this, and then all of a sudden come back and be like, well, now you can't.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason I'm not manager of the hotel anymore, so I'm just saying. I clashed too much with that because I had taken a vow, and I still believe this, and I'm still running with this to this day. If I'm ever in any type of authoritative position with people under me, I am not going to ever treat them the way that I got treated by managers or hotel owners or whoever. And I'm always going to treat them with respect, but I'm also always going to treat every situation with caution too. Yes, I'm going to be much more lenient than I was ever given the leniency for, but I also have to recognize where I need to bring the hammer down on things. There's a difference between you made a bad judgment call, didn't cost the company anything, nobody got hurt. We're going to use this as a teaching tool, right? There's going to be a teachable moment. We don't want to do this in the future because here's what could have happened. But if you're going to keep repeating the same mistake, okay, well, now we have to reevaluate your training because something's not clicking. And if you just can't click, then maybe this position isn't for you, and maybe we need to find something else for you to do, or take this specific duty away from you, and you don't do this anymore. I'm not writing anybody up. I'm not firing anybody. Nobody's in trouble. But I'm going to work with you, and if there's an issue where I can't work with you, then maybe you shouldn't be responsible for something like this, and maybe we should let somebody who can handle it better take care of that. And let's focus on the things you can do well. And if we want to revisit this in the future, we can. But at the same time, and I always hate to have to take the side of the corporation over the person, because, when you fire somebody, you could be causing them all kinds of rift. Like I believe personally, if you're firing somebody, it better be a damn good reason. And you better make sure that you're firing them for the right reasons. Because a fired employee, an unemployed person, especially, I'm talking about me personally, if I lost my income, I could potentially be homeless in a month.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's a reality of my situation. I could potentially be homeless. Now, granted, I can drive for Uber. I've got a backup plan if something would ever happen. And I know that, obviously there are jobs out there, and if I really just needed something to stay afloat, I can always grab a cheap part-time job while I'm looking elsewhere. So, I understand that. But you have to consider the fact, if you're firing somebody, why are you firing them? So, again, I'm going to give you a perfect example. When we started at the hotel, we did fire a girl relatively early on, but it was a situation where she was causing headaches. Bad headaches, and she wasn't learning from her mistakes. It was all the things you can't do as a front desk agent. Putting people in wrong rooms, so people are constantly walking in on other people, right? Now they're complaining, now we're offering discounts, now you're costing the company money. We explain this to the person. It doesn't click. It keeps happening. Then we find out she's also trying to cover her tracks so she doesn't get in trouble from making these mistakes. Okay, now we've got a problem.
So she knows she's making the mistake because she's purposely covering her tracks.
Purposely covering her tracks, so she's not learning from them. So now we're at the situation where, well, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you're causing too much strife. I'm comping people stuff. I'm being cost money because of your mistakes, and you're not owning up to them, and you're not learning from them. At this point, we're at an impasse, right? Then why are you doing this position? You can't handle this position. So we have to let this person go. And it's a business decision, but we tried. It didn't go through. What's the next choice? And that was another thing that my general manager explained to me. He goes, we did the proper steps. We did the verbal warning. We did the written warning. It didn't click. Because at the same time, there's always going to be a patience limit, right? How many times can I violate your trust, Eric, and betray you as a friend before you're done with me? I can make a mistake and I can screw up and hurt your feelings, right?
Yeah,
but I can
you have to be deliberate about it.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, but
I don't really have a limit.
Yeah, but I can apologize. I can rectify the mistake. I can correct it so it doesn't happen again. You know? But at the same time, if I'm going to constantly keep doing something to you that's pissing you off and hurting your feelings, how long are you going to put up with that? Especially when you think it's deliberate, and maybe it is. There has to be a limit, right?
Right. And I guess it also depends on how severe it is. Like, I joke, and sometimes I say that the cats piss me off. But if I got home one day and you'd be like, hey, I know that you said that your cats made you mad, so I sold them. I'd be like,
I'd flip
you
out.
need to go.
I'd flip out. I'd flip out. Yeah, exactly. Like people say that stuff all the time. Like, I always make jokes. Like, when Perry's being bad, I like pick him up and hold him, and I'm like, I'm gonna put you out on the street, and we'll see how well you do. But if he actually walked out the door, I'd go into a full-blown panic mode. Full-blown panic mode.
Like, Perry, no!
I'd be outside, shaking treats, screaming his name, like, frantically looking for him. Yeah, like, people make those jokes all the time. Like, I've seen that before where, like, the kids are misbehaving, and the parents say the line, like, you knock this off, we're going to put you up for adoption. They don't mean it.
Right.
They don't mean it.
We say this world that can take you out.
I could take you out, yeah, but something happens to the kid, they're going to be devastated. Like, and that's the thing. Like, but everybody has to have a limit to how much you can put up with something, and I think that goes a lot with a lot of these crimes too. Like, the whole concept of the warning, then the ticket. Okay, well, the ticket didn't. We warned you about speeding. We caught you doing it again. And you were doing like 90 and a 55. Now we ticketed you for it. You did it again. We gave you a bigger fine. And then you did it again. All right, you know what? Maybe we need to take your license away for a period of time. Maybe you shouldn't be driving.
And you're going to have to wear this ankle bracelet. And if this ankle bracelet goes over 45 miles an hour, so help me God.
That means I can't ride the bus. Get used to the bicycle, kid.
What bus goes over 45 miles an hour?
The one from Speed, obviously.
Okay, I'm about to say, if it's a normal city bus, I would citation the shit out of them. I don't think...
Sorry, I had to.
Oh, no, because there's some buses that actually go like 60.
I'm sure. I don't ride a lot of buses, so...
Yeah, it's been a while, but I know like most of the local buses here go like 35, 40 max. Or at least they do when they're in front of me. So
I remember one time I got in trouble for something I did when I was a kid. Well, I was a teenager because I was driving at the time. And I remember my parents took the car away. And I'm not going to say what I did because it's kind of embarrassing. But the punishment
didn't fit... You picked up some hookers?
The punishment didn't fit the crime at all because what I did had nothing at all to do with driving. And they're like, we're going to take your car away. And then I remember my dad even being like, so how are you going to get to school tomorrow? I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to take the school bus. And he's like, all right, you can have your car back. But you're just going to use it to drive to school. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense for, like, what I did, right? Like, I did something to upset you guys, but it had nothing to do with driving. Like, and I never understood, I never understood being sent to my room when I was a kid. That's where all my toys and video games were.
Right?
So what was the point? Like, being put in the corner was a punishment. Because I have to sit there with nothing until I've calmed down and I'm ready to behave again. But what good did sending me to my room actually do? I don't remember ever once getting sent to my room and actually like being upset about it.
I don't think being sent to your room is a punishment as much as they were so mad they probably just didn't want to see you, so it was more relief for them.
That's fair. That's fair, yeah. That's definitely fair.
Because I've gotten times where I've got sent to my room, and it definitely was not a punishment. It was more of protection than anything. It was just like, go into your room and close the door, because that at least there will be a barrier for when I try to kill you.
Exactly. Like I remember I had a bad report card one year. So the punishment was I lost all my video game privileges. That's an actual punishment because you can say the video games were distracting me from my studies. That punishment fit the crime. In a way. I can obviously I was upset at the time, but I can understand where they were coming from. Okay, your report card was bad, so you're gonna study more and you're gonna play less video games. And when we start seeing improvements, you can start getting game time back. And it worked, because my next report card was actually very good. Like, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is like, I learned my lesson from that. But if it was I had a bad report card, okay, well, you can't drive to school now. How does that help? Well, you can't drive your car now. All right, I can still I can still take the school bus. Like, or I can have a friend pick me up. Like, that doesn't punish me. Actually, in some cases, that might be easier. I don't have to worry about finding a parking space.
I have to tell you about my friend who's kind of an asshole, but you would appreciate him. Rick, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. As a punishment, his parents took away his car that they got him for his birthday. It's like his 16th birthday or whatever. So he got upset. I can't remember exactly what he did, but I know they took away his car. So he was just like, all right, well, bye. And he like walked out the house and he called me and he's just like, hey, you mind picking me up? I don't have the car. Like, sure, where do you want to go? So we went over to like the mall and stuff like that. It's just like, hey, I'm gonna like, I'll be back. I'm gonna go do something real quick. I'm like, fucking weird. All right, whatever. So he went off. He gives me a call later. He's like, hey, I found a ride home. You're good. Like, to just, do whatever. And I was like, what an asshole. Like, he calls me to pick him up, drive him to the mall, the Florida mall, by the way. And
not even a good mall.
Yeah, he just bounces. Well, around the Florida mall, there's some dealerships. He just bought another car.
That's funny.
The dude just went and bought a car at 16, which it still blows my mind. But I'm just like, whatever. And then his parents were like, oh, well, you can't have that one either. He's just like, I bought this one with my money. It's my car. Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, he's got a point.
Not bad, kid. Not bad. Which is funny because, at 16 of all things, like.
Well, he had been working.
I'm not shocked about the money thing. I'm shocked that they let him buy a car at 16.
Oh, it was one of those like mom and pop buy here, pay here places. So
yeah, but
I'm not surprised at all because that car was a piece of shit. I'm sorry, Rick. It was a piece of shit, and you know it. It worked great for a month, and that was it.
I got a good one for you. Okay, John, if you're watching this, I'm sorry I'm telling the accident story again, but it fits. So I've told the story before about my idiot friend John and his bad driving, and how he got into an accident the night we were coming home from one of Andy's concerts. And John's accident got me in trouble with my parents because, and sorry, Mom and Dad, but you guys were kind of jerks for this one. I'm sorry. Because I called them so they could come pick me up, and they were going to Disney the next day with the family, and they needed their sleep before the flight. So they were pissed off at me, and my punishment for this was that while they were gone, I couldn't drive. And I'm like, okay, A, you can't enforce that in any way, shape, or form because you're physically not going to be here. And B, why am I in trouble? Okay, so the next time I'm in a car accident, I guess I won't call you for help. That's what I took away from that. Mom and Dad, that was dumb. I'm sorry. That was dumb and you know it. Or maybe you don't know it and you don't care, but like that was just that one always got me. Like okay, so my friend got into an accident and you're pissed about it. Which I can understand being pissed that I called you at 3 a.m. and made you drive out to pick me up. Like I can get that. Trust me, I can get it. I'd be annoyed, but okay, we don't want you driving. Morning? Yeah. And then like, okay, this is kind of a sad story, but this and I understand that my mom was upset and like, so I get it. I went out with friends the night that somebody we know died in a car accident. And I remember when I was going out with my friends that night, my mom was like crying hysterically and didn't want me to leave because she was convinced something bad was going to happen to me. And I'm like, I've gone out so many times and driven. Just because this one bad thing happened to this one person we know doesn't mean it's going to happen to me. And I understand you're upset, but I'm not shutting my life off because this happened. And I always felt kind of bad about that, but at the same time, what would you rather I do? Do you want me to sit at home and cry? Like, I literally didn't understand what she wanted me to do instead. And I understand you're concerned because this happened, but I hate to say it, but the reason he had the accident was entirely his fault. He was going like 90 miles an hour down a road that he should not have been going 90 miles an hour down and lost control of the vehicle. I'm not making light of the situation, but I never drove like that. I was always I'm not a saint behind the wheel. None of us are, but I never sped like that. Even when I was younger and I was more akin to going over the speed limit, like I never drove like that. I just didn't. I was always a cautious driver. I drove at a speed I was always comfortable with. I still do to this day. So like, no, don't go out with your friends. Okay. And do what instead? Like,
go to your room, play video games.
Go to your room and play video games. Okay. You want me to play a driving game? No, that would be too much. I wouldn't do that to my poor mother.
Play Driver.
You play Driver. Yeah, we have to follow the law. I remember Driver. But it's just one of those things, right? Like, I understand where people get upset, and I understand why they get upset, and I understand you want to, you want to teach me a lesson, but like, well, and it kind of boils down to why anything happens. Like, what would happen if, why would you break up with somebody, right? What caused the breakup? There's probably a number of factors. And then there's always that catalyst that does it in, right? But, like, I'm not going to say this person's name, but she's an ex. We'll just put it that way.
Okay.
She divorced her husband because she got bored with him and somehow got full custody of her daughter. And I would love to know how she presented that to the court. Because that's what she told me.
Did he not want custody?
I guess that's a possibility. I never asked. I just remember I was like, I remember I asked because I wasn't really like trying to pry or anything. I was just curious. They had been married for a while. They had the kid and everything. And they always seemed, when I like met them, I mean, I always thought he was, I admit, I thought he was kind of boring. But like, they seemed happy together. And then she's just like, yeah, I just got bored with him. And then now she's with a girl. And she's like, oh no, I'm a lesbian. I like girls now. I'm like, okay, well, was that the actual reason you got divorced? Because you told me you got bored with him. Is that enough of a reason to end a marriage? I mean, I guess so, but like...
I mean, if you're not happy, you're not happy. But at the same point, like, he must have not wanted custody of these kids if she got full custody. Because I feel like...
I would imagine.
If you go to a judge and be like, I don't want to be married anymore because I'm bored.
The judge is going to be like, so why should I give you the kid? Yeah, why would I give you the kid? Like...
And then the husband's like, well, I still want custody of the kids. That's an easy, okay, shared custody.
Yeah, exactly. Must be a mosquito in here or something. I felt it. Where are you? Oh, yeah. Okay,
Because
so
I'm also under the assumption, like, unpopular opinion coming up. If we go to court and I want half custody or want some sort of custody of the kids, shared custody basically, and you do not want me to have shared custody, and it's for uh, now I understand if it's for like violent reasons or
mhm,
I'm mistreating or some sort of neglect or whatever, that's one thing.
abusing
But
drugs or
if I'm not doing anything wrong, I have a stable job, and that's just because we've grown apart, and you don't want me to have any custody of these kids, and I want custody of these kids. If you want full custody, I shouldn't have to pay child support.
agree. I'm actually 100% on board with that. And I have a buddy right now, and I know he's been going through this his whole life. He hardly ever gets to see his son, and it's nothing necessarily that he's doing wrong. He's got steady work and everything down at the parks. She's an asshole, and she knew the right people, and she had the money to get the right lawyers, and he didn't, and she took full advantage of that, and it's not fair, and what he's going through is just not fair, and he's been going through it for as long as I've known him, and I've known him over 10 years. It's an unfair situation that he's in, and I'm fully on his side without even knowing the details of the divorce. I'm fully on his side because it's an unfair situation.
Yeah.
And
Now, if I wanted nothing to do with it and you needed support,
that's
that's
different.
one thing.
That's one thing.
That's
Yeah.
different.
But
But if we're both fighting for custody, no, I'm just like, okay,
yeah.
um, it's funny how it never really works the other way, right?
That's a whole different
Like,
topic, but yeah.
like if a guy gets full custody and tries to get child support, like I just you don't hear it. I'm sure it happens.
Oh, it
right?
does. I know people who have full custody of their kids that are guys.
And they get child support.
I'd probably have to
Yeah.
get some detail out of
See?
that. I don't actually know. I don't know the answer to that.
That's where I'm talking about. Like, I'm sure there's cases, but I feel like it's far few in between.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's majority the other way around.
Well, and again, it goes back to the whole victim deciding thing. You're okay. You guys are splitting up. Who initiated the divorce? She did. Okay, what was her reason? She's just done with me. We're growing apart. Okay, why did you want full custody? Why can't he have access? I just don't want him to. Well, that's not a good enough reason. It's not a good reason. He's working. He takes care of them. He's still a supporter. We're not gonna. No, you have to split custody. Like, you legally have to split custody.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot more cases now these days that seem to be much more fair with that situation than ever used to be. Like, I feel like there's a stigma that's being broken there. But again, like you're saying, it boils down to the reason behind the situation. Why did you steal food? I was hungry. Okay, I needed to feed my family. We ran out of food. We don't have money because of the recession, or I'm unemployed. I can't get work. I had to steal something to feed my family. Okay. Why'd you steal that candy bar? Oh, because I wanted it, and I didn't want to pay for it. What's the difference? It's in the morality.
Yeah.
And yes, I understand that morality can't always be factored into law because sometimes you have to follow the law. I'm not gonna make this into a thing, but I think about that Brock Turner case a lot, where they didn't want his punishment to affect his school records because he was such a good athlete. And in my head, I've always been disgusted by that. Because I'm like, no, he raped a girl, knew what he was doing, and the people who caught him said it was horrific, that it caused them issues. He shouldn't get a free pass over that. What the hell? And I think about that a lot. It's... you have to, you got to know the right people, I guess. Like,
It's fucked up, man.
it
Everything's
is.
fucked up. It's all
And we're
about
and
who
we're
you
just
know.
rolling along with it and just making podcasts on YouTube and
Well,
like,
we have it pretty easy, and like in the full light of things, as much as like, oh man, we live paycheck to paycheck, and we do. I fully admit that I live paycheck to paycheck.
but we have
It could
roofs
be
over our
worse.
heads.
Yeah,
We have
we
steady
definitely
jobs. We have steady
we have.
incomes. We have food. We have
I feel
clothes.
like even though my backup plan sucks, at least I have a backup plan.
Yeah, I have a backup
Like
plan
it's
too. I don't want it to do it, but I have a backup plan.
right. And worst case scenario, I mean, I can always go back to Florida and start over again. But Florida's
Yeah.
literally ground zero, like starting from
Florida's
the
ground
bottom,
zero. Yeah.
working way back up.
It's always an option. It's there. It's there and it's an option. Yeah. I mean, I could always go back to working in a hotel. The money would be crap, but it would be money, you know? It's still better than nothing.
Yeah.
Something's always going to be better than nothing. I can always drive Uber. I can go drive Uber right now. I can go get in my car right now, log onto the app, and start driving. I have that
I would just do
option.
Uber Eats. I would
Yeah.
just do Uber Eats. I don't think I could ever fucking drive people around anymore.
Some of it was fun.
Till they get out in the middle of the intersection, but
Well,
that's a different story.
that didn't happen to me. We gotta have some Uber drivers on to just tell Uber driver stories one day. That'd be great.
I'm sure people who listen to us, someone's an Uber
Joe
driver.
does. Joe's got
Joe?
stories. Joey
Joe,
Image.
come on, man.
Joey Image, he's got stories, but yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, like I said, we've got so many theme park stories alone.
Right.
We could get some Uber stories in there. I mean, I got my hotel stories, and you've got tech stories, and we got them. We got lots of stories. Have no fear, we got stories for years. But okay, so here's something I've been wanting to ask the whole time. Let's discuss it.
Okay.
The idea of piracy.
Piracy for yourself or piracy for selling?
Exactly my point. You said it before I even had to go any further. Because here's the thing. One of my friends he had a website long time ago. I doubt he still got the website up. Matt Martinique, published author now. So Matt had written this thing out on his website about whether piracy was truly a crime. And I know Jason Shin will have a very strong opinion about this because he's very much against any idea of piracy, especially in music, because he doesn't like the idea of these bands losing money and people not supporting them. And I totally understand where he's coming from. His thing is, he didn't say it on the show when we had him on, but the hashtag he always used was buy music or it's buy music, which is a really clever hashtag. Because you have to support, you have to buy the stuff or it's eventually going to go away. Now, granted, yes, a lot of things are evolving. Artists do make money off of Spotify. Maybe not as much as they would have been making off the grand scheme of things, but they are making something.
Yeah.
Streaming services, you're making something, you know? There's...
oh man. Music and videos, you have to treat them different.
Yeah, okay,
and here's why I'm saying this. For streaming services like Netflix, they pay the royalties out to these companies to show the movies, right? So it's a one and done deal. So it doesn't matter how many people are viewing it, they've already paid that amount. So it's up for them to like bid on a contract on like, okay, you can stream our movie for 3 months if you give us $5 million.
Right.
Right. And now it's on Netflix to try to recoup that $5 million or whatever it is between their users. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds ridiculous, right? Because it probably is. It's probably closer to like $1 million. But how many users do they have? They got like, what, 63 million or something like that. It's pretty
Yeah.
high.
It's a ridiculous number, yeah.
And each of them are paying at least $10 a month. So, I mean, they made their money within a month for that particular film. This is not on top of the Netflix originals. And obviously, some movies cost more than others, depending on how new they are and what movie it is
Right.
and
And
who
then
you're
there's a
getting
lot
it
of
from.
indie films and stuff like that. They're probably not paying that much money. They're just getting their film out there because, they want their film noticed, and this is what they're going to do.
Now, here's the downside to that. Um, a lot of the actors don't see that much money off of those kind of contracts. They get it based off the sales for theater tickets,
Mm-hmm.
DVD/Blu-ray sales,
Mm-hmm.
and then royalties for people. Like whenever they show it, they get like a little bit of money,
Right.
but it's very little. So I personally don't buy movies anymore. I don't remember the last time I went out and was like, that's a Blu-ray that I need. Now, I will do it for certain things that I can't stream or can't find. For instance, like the dubbed version of Naruto, which I swear exists, but where the fuck is it? like, I know it's a thing. I've seen it. Anyway, I digress. So that I will buy. But most of the other stuff I'm just streaming, which guess what? Is completely legal,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not getting any of my money. Very
So,
little of my money goes to them.
so here's what Matt wrote about the music thing. Let's go back to the music thing real quick. He made a
Okay.
point that said, you know, sometimes an artist will release a CD for $20. For 19.95, you'll get our CD, and it comes with 10 songs. So essentially, you're paying $2 a song, right?
Mm-hmm.
But odds are you're not going to like everything on that CD. Not every CD is Hybrid Theory. That's just a fact of life.
Right.
And there are many CDs or many compilation albums, especially some of these one-hit wonders, where I don't listen to everything on the CD. A good example of that would be Dookie by Green Day, another one of my favorite albums. But I only listen to about half of it because there's a bunch of songs on there that I skip a lot of. So what I can do instead is I can just go online and purchase the individual songs that I want. And the artist isn't technically losing any money because I'm getting what I wanted. If it's a choice between buy the songs or buy the whole CD, okay, you could argue, well, you lost money by buying the CD, but if it was my only option and it wasn't worth my purchase, then I wouldn't have done it in the first place.
So here's where I'm at for music. And I'm going to mainly do Apple stuff because I think I got their figures correct for the most part. Apple takes a 30% cut on their marketplace whenever like purchases are going through,
Okay.
right? So let's say you pay $1 per song.
Okay.
30 cents of that is going to Apple. The other 70 cents goes towards the publisher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And out of that 70 cents, maybe 10%, if that, which is 7 cents to the artist, right? It's shit numbers.
Right.
It really is shit numbers. So 7 cents per song per person. Whereas if you're streaming, there's a ratio, right? Like let's say if you're streaming something, you no longer get that 7 cents for the one song, which you can play over and over and over again as much as you want. But now every time the song gets so many listens, it gets a cent. Let's put it like in YouTube views, right? Like let's say for every thousand views or listens, you get 1 cent.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to listen to that particular song so many times for it to get to 7 cents. However, there are more people who are willing to listen to it while it's streaming than there are buying it. So there's
Mm-hmm.
more people streaming than buying music. We both can agree on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's a kick-ass song, you're probably going to listen to it more than once.
Yep.
So I feel like it, maybe not fully, but it is starting to balance itself out if they're doing it per listen on a streaming service. Now, depending on what streaming service it is, they may make more money towards it. Because here's also something neat about Apple. You have Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
You got it off of the Apple Store, right? You downloaded it. You decide, hey, I really like Spotify. I'm going to do the monthly subscription of, what is it, $10 a month?
Something like that, yeah.
They take 30% of that. So now Apple still gets $3 out of your $10 purchase a month. And then Spotify gets the other $7. So they're literally, just because you're using Apple and it has to go through their Apple store, they're making 30% less because of that. So here's where I'm at for music, right? Now, if you have Spotify and you want to use Spotify, do the subscription on the computer. That way, more of your money is going to the artist and less of it is going to Apple. You're literally, it's costing you nothing in difference, but more of your money will go towards the artist.
Well said. Well said. Next time we have Jason on, you can debate him about that. And another point that well, here's another point that Matt made. Let's say you're gonna put out a CD that only has 10 songs on it, and you want me to put down $20 for it, but you also have bonus features. Maybe you have like some of the CDs would come with like the video content when you put it in your computer, and they've got music videos and behind the scenes stuff and interviews and things like that. I mean, that makes it worth the money. And I think that's the same thing with going out and streaming a movie versus buying it on a Blu-ray. For me, it's all about, well, what are the bonus features?
Yeah.
Because I can click the movie right now, and I can watch the Lord of the Rings extended trilogy right now. But yep. I also own the Blu-rays for it because I wanted the bonus features. Star Wars, I got the Blu-ray because I wanted the bonus features. Give me a reason to pick the physical media over the streaming service. Now, if it boils down to, and again, we'll go back to music real quick. Now let's say that I downloaded a couple of Hailstorm songs, which is how I originally got into Hailstorm. Downloaded them. I don't remember if that was during the LimeWire age or not. I honestly don't remember at this point. It could have been Kazaa for all I freaking remember. It was post-Napster, I'll just say that. I became a fan of the band. You know what I want to do now? I want to see them in concert. When I get a chance to see them in concert, I'm going to go see them. Why? Because I pirated a couple of their songs, became a fan, now I'm willing to go see them live. And I've bought their music legally as a result of liking what I heard. And that can happen.
Yeah. And that does happen a lot.
A lot.
I think the exposure of the songs is well worth more. It's worth more than if they were to just buy them. You know what I mean? Like that spread, that insta spread, like a disease, like COVID, is more important than making the first $5 off of a CD.
I'm such a fan of Disturbed that I've bought every one of their CDs.
Oh, Disturbed is like, yeah.
I specifically buy the CD to support the band because I've got it on Spotify.
Right, but you've heard of my thing is, like, let's say you've never heard of Disturbed, right? You've never heard a single one of their songs, and there's a CD in front of you, and you have to pay to hear a song by a band you've never heard of, that you've never heard, you don't even know if you're gonna like it.
Mhm.
I'm probably not gonna risk it. However,
Exactly.
if I were to click on something and it's like, hey, this band that you've never heard of before has a song that I can download and listen to it for free. It's not going to cost me anything.
Mm-hmm.
See if you like it. And I like it, even though I did something illegal, I'm probably going to go out and buy their CD now.
I would.
So
That's
it's a temporarily, like, I mean, in my case it'd be temporary illegal to buy a lot of your shit.
I
It's just like
also I also
crack dealers give out a little bit of crack, you know.
I mean,
Hope
it's
to
the
come
same.
back.
I always believe in the physical media because what happens if the internet goes down?
Oh yeah, no. Well, if the internet goes down, I don't know. Like the society has
Exactly.
fallen.
But here's the thing, like, okay, PS5, perfect example. I wanted specifically the disk drive because I want the physical media. If my power goes out and I can't stream my games, what do I get to play? Whatever's downloaded or whatever I have a physical copy of. Well, I've got a physical copy of South Park Fractured But Whole, so I can play that. Maybe it's not the game I want to play. Maybe I want to play Stray, but I can't play Stray because the power's out. I can't stream it. But I have South Park. I can play something.
Yeah,
I have an option to play something even though my internet's out. I said the power was out. Yeah, the power goes out. I got my Nintendo DS.
yeah.
I've got
For
my iPad.
a good hour
You know,
or
like
two.
yeah, exactly. I've got my iPad. I got my DS. Like I have options. I have physical stuff. So streaming is never going to fully replace everything. Not as long as it's required to be on some kind of a grid, like we were talking about earlier. So streaming is never going to be the end all be all replacement, but it's always going to be a convenience method, and you're going to want that convenience method more than anything else.
Right.
That's where we are right now.
And here's the better thing, right? Like for Shin, right? I want him to come back so we could talk about this. I'm
He
actually
will.
disappointed that with okay.
He will.
So
As soon as he
uh
sees this, he'll offer to come back.
okay. So my whole thing is like, yes, now you're support, like you're giving more money to a band that you want to support.
Mm-hmm.
But without streaming services, I probably wouldn't have found other bands that I didn't even know that I would like. And just because I found one of their songs and I liked it and listened to it a couple of times, I'm still supporting a new band that I've never even heard of
Mm-hmm.
without downloading something illegally.
Because you can also introduce that song to other people, and maybe they'll. Coheed and Cambria.
Yeah.
I discovered them on satellite radio. I downloaded one of their songs, Welcome Home, because that was the big hit. And I was like, I really like this band. What else do they have? And then I just searched for Coheed and Cambria, started downloading stuff that came up, went out and bought the CD. And I've seen them in concert. Because I liked what I heard. Like that's, there's always going to be a new way to get introduced to something. And I do genuinely believe, like we talked about, that okay, they always say, well, piracy is not a victimless crime. You're right, it's not. But is it the worst possible thing in the world that could happen to somebody? Because I do know that there are bands, like small bands, who tried to form and didn't have the support, and they could only get on online streaming, or people pirated too much of their stuff, and it caused them to fold. And I do know that that has happened, which is where one of Shin's main points came from initially. And he can probably tell you way more about that. I'm not going to paraphrase or put words in his mouth. But like, did Seth Rogen lose any money because I pirated Sausage Party to watch it? No, he didn't. Because
he lost money for other reasons.
He lost a lot of money on that movie for a lot of other reasons. I didn't want to pay to see that movie, and I would have found a way to not pay to see that movie. But I watched it out of curiosity, hated it, and got rid of it. He didn't lose any money there. Because you know what would have happened if I didn't have an option to watch it? I would have never seen it. He lost absolutely nothing. I would have never rented it. because I didn't think it looked good enough to rent.
So, you know what? Okay. This is kind of funny because I think I was talking about piracy law back in Florida when a friend of mine was going to Full Sail, and we were talking
Oh
about
no.
movies, purchasing movies and stuff like that.
Literally going to Full Sail to make movies, and here you are.
Right? So, when you purchase a movie, you're not purchasing the movie. You're purchasing a license to play that movie for your personal enjoyment,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's
Your
correct.
personal enjoyment. So the license belongs, well, still to them, but you have a license to watch it.
Right.
Now, let's say I own a movie. Let's say I own Star Wars: The Last Jedi, right?
Mm-hmm.
You come over and you're like, "Oh, I didn't realize you had that movie. Do you mind if I watch it?" And I'm like, "Okay." I put it in to my DVD player for you to watch. That's piracy.
On a technical level. On an absolute technical level, right? So if you're going to get somebody for that, you got to get everybody who's ever watched a movie at a friend's house, ever. Which means every single person would be locked up on this planet. Like, and that's just it. Like, I'm not advocating for it, obviously.
No, I'm not saying go out there
But
and download Metallica's like all their CDs.
no. No, I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying that like it's not the money loss that I think people want to picture it as. Going back to the fact that back in the day when Napster was a thing, like I used it to discover new music and I used it to listen to songs that I wouldn't have been able to listen to otherwise. But it's not like I would have gone out and bought some of the CDs for some of the songs that I got. I wasn't going to go out, for example, and buy, and I don't hate this band, I'm just using it as an example, but a Stone Temple Pilots song, for example. I wasn't exactly going to rush out and buy Stone Temple Pilots CDs. My option then would have been, okay, I'm just not going to hear the song unless it comes on the radio, because I don't own it. But it's not like I cared enough to own it. It's just that I had an option. I was like, I'll get this song because I like this enough to have it. I still do to this day, spend money on the things I want to support and want to own. And if I didn't want to support it or I didn't want to own it, I wouldn't spend money on it. So
How mad would you have been? You heard a song, you liked it so much, you're just like, "Oh my god, the rest of the CD has got to be fucking awesome," and it's the only good song on that CD.
you know what that happened to? That happened to me. I bought a Kid Rock CD.
Okay, that's fair.
And you know how many songs on it I ended up liking? The one that I originally heard.
Ball with the ball.
No, it was a different CD. It was something about, I actually don't remember the name of the song. Something about a road. It was a good song. No, it was a good song. It was a good like slow paced song and I really liked it. And then I was like, I'm going to get the whole CD. And then I just remember one of the songs was called You Ever Never Met a Motherfucker Quite Like Me. I'm like, this is garbage. The CD was garbage. And I regretted spending my money on it. So
don't say that too loud. Remember, I'm in Michigan right now and I'm pretty sure they can hear me through my fucking headset.
I love Eminem. I've bought lots of his CDs.
Oh, yeah. Eminem was like...
That's closer to you than Kid Rock. Kid Rock was Northern Michigan.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's why I should go out and be like, yeah, I can't talk bad about Breaking Benjamin or Hailstorm here because that's like local.
Okay.
But I also like both of them. So
I like Breaking Benjamin, but I cannot listen to Diary of Jane anymore. Ever again.
Overplayed to death.
It is a good song.
Yes, but overplayed to death.
Yeah. No.
But it's the point though. Like if I didn't have the option to get a lot of the stuff on streaming, I would just have never seen a lot of these movies. The reason I've seen some of the movies I have seen is because I was able to get them on a streaming service. I watched them because I was like, I'm curious about this movie, and here it is. Let's sit down and watch it. But it was never one of those, I'm going to the video store to rent a movie. God, I miss that. I miss that so much. It was the best. Blockbuster was the best thing ever. I'm sorry. I miss Blockbuster.
Blockbuster was nice, man.
Yeah. But I was never going to go to Blockbuster and pick up Sausage Party. I was never going to do that. So the only reason I saw it was out of sheer curiosity. And then I immediately deleted it because fuck that movie. One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. So he didn't lose any money by me actually seeing it because he wouldn't have gotten my money to begin with, is the point.
Now, where I would say piracy, where I disagree with it, is if I downloaded a DVD copy of something and then I started selling it.
I agree 100% with that because that is where you should get hit.
That's where that fine should be.
You're now profiting off of somebody else's work, and that's very illegal.
Yes,
that is literally piracy.
Piracy, I am not. I'm not on board. Yeah. Right? No.
Well, I mean, going back to my idiot friends from high school who stole DVDs out of Walmart and then were selling them to people, for a super reduced price because it was all profit for them. They absolutely could have and arguably should have gotten arrested for that. And he's lucky all he ever did was get banned from Walmart because I don't think they found out he was actually selling them.
Now, I have accidentally gotten into the piracy thing, and I have to share this story now that I said that. Because now I realize I was a part of the problem, but I didn't know that I was a part of the problem. Because to me, this was before I knew piracy, like what piracy actually was. You're just kind of like, so I found a bunch of like Dragon Ball Z movies that I had downloaded, and I was just like, oh dude, I can make a killing if I just like put these onto some CDs and stuff like that and just sold them to my friends at school. And that's exactly what I did. But like, it was hard to get. It's not like you could just pop up anywhere, but like back in the day and be like, oh, Dragon Ball Z movies here. So I literally went out of my way, found them, downloaded them, and then like cropped them, made my own DVDs. Remember the software was just like, you can have your own custom picture on the background, the title page.
Yep, I remember that.
And chapters and stuff like that. And I did that, and I just kind of like sold them. And it was only a handful of us, and I was just, now looking back at it, I was just like, holy shit, that was fucking illegal.
But again, you didn't know any better, and that's another thing.
I didn't know any better.
Like,
I was like, what, 13?
If we all got in trouble today for illegal stuff that we did when we were way younger, nobody would be a free person. Going back to the crime thing, like,
right?
No, none of us would be free. None of us would be on the streets right now because, like, and that's just it. Like, people grow, people change, people mature, people adapt, people apologize. That's a point that I want to make in life. That, like, like if yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if I wrong somebody and I apologize for it, and they just refuse to accept the apology, then how much of that is still on me?
Right. Okay. So on that note, if there's no warning or sign or anything that's saying that something is illegal, and you do something illegal by accident, should it be a crime? And I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say you have an electric bike.
Okay.
Right? And you go on a bike path and there's no signs. And they stop you like, hey, electric bikes are not allowed here. I have to write you a ticket.
Well,
there's no signs.
But there's no signs. I didn't know that.
Now, knowledge of the law is on the person, right? So not knowing a law is not an excuse to break the law.
Right.
But like, at what point?
Where's your fair signage?
Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw, like,
where does it say? Show me specifically where it says I can't have this electric bike on this trail. Show me right now.
Correct.
Because if you can't, then you can't get me the ticket.
There should be an intent to actually break the law for you to have criminal action taken against you.
Let's use it because I just released the trivia night episode because the patrons got it early, where I did the Big Bang Theory trivia, where I got 99 questions right out of only like 108. So that was like an A+, because I know my Big Bang Theory trivia. The Thanksgiving episode, when they find out that Penny's actually married to Zach, because they went to a Vegas chapel and they thought it was a fake wedding ceremony, but it was actually a real one because it's Vegas, and they were legally married. They look up how to get an annulment, and one of the ways that you can get an annulment is want of understanding. And Penny goes, "What's that?" And Amy goes, "Ding, ding, ding, we have a winner." Because want of understanding is a way out of a crime. I'll give you a perfect example. There was an abandoned house in my old town. I went up and explored it. There were no trespassing signs on it at all. So I didn't know I was trespassing. I did eventually find a trespassing sign, but it was in a spot that wasn't visible from the road or the entrance to the house. It was literally on the back of the house, and it was practically hidden. So, okay, well, now I realize I shouldn't be there, so now I'm going to leave. But if somebody had caught me before that, I would have asked them to show me the sign. And that was a way that we almost got arrested once. We were at the Demon's Alley area, featured in Weird New Jersey, no longer exists, row of abandoned houses, supposedly haunted. And there are trespassing signs on it, but we were literally just taking pictures of the house on the actual road. We weren't on the property. And the cops pulled up and were, talking to us and everything. Just two high school kids taking pictures. It was actually for my buddy's photography class. He was taking the pictures. And she's like, "Okay, boys, you can get arrested for this. We're just letting you know, like, there are signs posted." And I asked the cop specifically, I said, "Can you show me where the signs are? Because I literally don't see any." She goes, "Well, it's on the actual house." And I said, "Well, I can't actually see it from there." And she's like, "Okay, I understand that, but I'm letting you know that it's there because even you guys aren't doing anything wrong. We don't want people here because it's owned by the watershed, and they complain about all the Weird New Jersey people coming out and vandalizing." Okay, I get that. But that was a perfect way for that police officer to handle the situation. We technically knew, but we didn't actually see the sign, and we weren't doing anything illegal. She could have arrested us. She even told us she could have. And she would have had the right to, but she played what I believe was the right card I would have played. Well, what's the point of arresting these two kids? They're not actually doing anything wrong. I'm just going to tell them to get out of here.
Shoot, scram, get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Just leave, guys. Guys, just leave. And we did. We left. Now, if we had come back and got caught again, that's a different story. Now you absolutely know what you're doing wrong. And that goes back to the whole...
I promise you, if a police officer asks me to leave a location, I am never coming back to that location ever again.
Yeah. Because you're not... Yeah, I'm like, nope. Because now you're like under the impression that even though they don't really know anything about you, that you're under the impression they have your picture. They know my social security number. They know everything. I'm never coming back here. Yeah, I get that. And I've seen I've had like encounters with cops before that could have ended badly for my friends, and it was one of those things where it's like, well, I don't want to go back there again, because you just don't. You don't want to go back because you got the negative memory of it too, and that's another thing. Like, why would you want to go back anywhere you had a negative memory of? Like, if something happened and I had to crawl back to one of my old jobs, I can tell you which ones I'd be okay with going back to and which ones I would never go back to, because I've got a bad memory there and I don't want to revisit it. And
that's fair.
One of those jobs is, unfortunately, Disney and Universal. There were bad memories. I wouldn't want to work for those parks again. It's my choice. If something
SeaWorld.
Exactly. I would go back. I would go to SeaWorld or Gatorland or Legoland or Busch Gardens. I'd try another park. But yeah, I wouldn't go back to where I was because I wouldn't want to be back there. Well, like, I can't go back to Interventions, but
it's no one can ever go back to Interventions.
But I've had people tell me that from the parks before, like they had an opportunity to go back to one of their old attractions and they wouldn't do it because they didn't want to go back because there was something that happened there that they're like, I liked the job, but I have bad memories. I don't want to revisit that. And I get that. This is a very deep conversation. We're like in overtime right now, but I also don't want to stop. Is there anything else you want to discuss before it gets too late? Because this has been a lot of fun.
It's already too late.
I know this has been so much fun though.
2.5 hours.
We're not at half yet, but we're getting there.
Oh
well, we missed last week. This is our makeup for everybody. So
right. I don't know, man. I really enjoy these deep conversations.
I do too.
Talk about this.
I want to have some more philosophical conversations. So there was a book. Chris Decker, if you're listening to this, I'm going to actually send him the video because I want him to at least see the ending here. He had a book. It's called Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs, and I forget what the actual point of the book was, but it had these deep philosophical questions that I think if we did a whole episode on, we would have a blast with it. One of the questions, just to give you an example of one of the things I remember, was like, a guy on the street offers that you pay him and he can make you more attractive. Would you give him any money, and how much you would give him? And it was like a whole thing where like he shows you an example where he pulls somebody out, they pay him, and you do notice that they got more attractive immediately. And it's like, would you pay him? Would you take the offer? Like it was a question like that, but there was a whole list of them. And I was staying at his house. I had come up for I forget if I was up for the wedding or for WrestleMania, because I stayed at his house twice, and one of those times he busted out we're just chilling in the house bullshitting, and he just busts out the book. He goes, let's do some of these, and I had a blast with it. So I want to find, either get a copy of that book myself, or have him send some of those questions over, or even come on the show with the book, and we can do it with him, and just like have those deep philosophical questions, because I love them. Like, they had the Neil deGrasse Tyson video that I absolutely loved, where he answered some of the deepest questions that people would ask, like, did we fake the moon landing? Are you scared of artificial intelligence? Do you think intelligent alien life is out there? Do you think God exists? And he answered all these questions, but he answered them in a philosophical way that made you think. He never, like the God question, we don't do religion on this channel, but he didn't answer it in a yes or no fashion. He answered it in a well, think about what people consider God to be and what they don't consider God to be, and then he answered that. And I always really enjoyed like that, because it got me thinking, and it got those, that deep intellectual side of you out there. And we could come up with a whole list of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pose a challenge right now to our listeners in the comment section. I want you guys to go out, and I want you guys to find some philosophical type questions like that. Really good what-if style questions, and present them to us. I definitely do want to avoid political issues. I don't want to discuss women's rights or gay rights and things like that, because you guys can probably find 100,000 channels out there that'll tell you one way or the other, and they're convinced they have it right. We're not doing that. And I do want to avoid the religious type stuff. Things of matter of faith, like not religious type faith, but a matter of faith, like believing in UFOs and things like that. You believe in something, but there's no physical evidence of it. Like, I'll discuss that stuff.
I think my cat just sneezed.
Aw, that's so cute. But yeah, like, you could present us with some philosophical stuff. We'll do an episode. We'll answer some of those questions. And, like, the moon landing question, the way Neil Tyson answered it, or, like, is the Earth flat and everything, and the way he answers it is a way that you're just like, okay, yeah, I understand. Even if I disagreed with what he believed in, the way he presented it was in such an intelligent way that it forced me to reconsider my own belief. So, and I'll answer two of those. Flat Earth, moon landing, stuff like that. I'll answer that stuff.
Changing someone's mind. It's about opening up your own mind.
Opening up your own
possibilities.
Mind. Right, exactly. Like if you're so, and that's the thing. Even if I agree with somebody philosophically, if they're so stubborn that they refuse to change their mind, even if the evidence is presented against it, then they're wrong. If you're that stubborn that you won't consider changing your opinion, even if facts are presented to change your opinion, then that's on you. Hi, kitties. So, but yeah, we can definitely do some more philosophical type episodes like this, but we should also break it up and do fun stuff too, because I don't want to.
Oh yeah, of course.
We could just do a whole thing where you just bitch about hard video games. Hey, Eric, played Dark Souls lately?
I played Elden Ring.
Yeah. How's League of Legends going? Like, we can.
I only played that one game with Matt, and that was about it.
How's Yu-Gi-Oh going? Like,
okay, so I'm going to a new comic place, or a new card game place, and they do not have an official OTS person there yet. So I have postponed playing official Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, but I have been playing Magic. So
there you go. I mean, we can talk about that fun stuff too, but yeah, like, Yeah,
I've
no,
been getting good at it too.
conversations like this are fun. Like I like, nice.
See if I can fucking zoom in.
Well,
Zoom in.
I don't know anything
God
about
damn.
Magic, so
Anyway, it's a good card.
okay, it's a good card. All I know is the blue-eyed dragon.
Oh my god.
I know if you get it, it's worth money. But yeah, like I like deep-seated philosophical questions, and I like pondering things, and I like talking about like stuff in like universal physics type stuff. Nothing like math related that I'm not going to be able to answer anyway, but like the whole question of whether we're alone in the universe or not. And then when you actually break it down, like that stuff I enjoy doing. So we can absolutely do that. So yeah, go to the comments section, guys, and give us some of those questions. Like go grab some of those books where they ask you stuff like that and present them. We'll answer whatever you want.
So I want to say something, and I want to get really, really deep, and I'll say something real quick.
Oh, God.
Just real quick
This is
before
gonna
we
be a
go.
teaser. Okay.
Just as a teaser, if it is almost impossible that we are the only intelligent life in the universe, and if we are the only intelligent life in the universe, then we are impossible.
I should just click the button right now, but I had more plugs to do before we got out of here. That would have been a great ending. Ah, great. Now I'm going to be thinking about that all week. Thanks. All right. We're taking requests for Sporkle quizzes. If you guys want to challenge us to a Sporkle quiz, find a good one. Let us know. Dan and I are kind of spearheading that, but anybody can join in on that. We're taking requests for Chris and Eric with friends. We've had some friends on. Friends are welcome, so bring some more friends in. If you guys want to join us, just tell us what you want the main topic of the show to be. Obviously, we're going to have a BSing session, but I still want a theme to why you're here. We had Jeff on. It was to discuss his podcast and what that's led to in his personal life. With Jason, it was to discuss his podcast and the music industry and all that. But, of course, we got into tangents and we got off topic and everything, which happens. I mean, that happened today.
Yeah.
It was just us. But, like, we take requests and things like that if you guys want to be on. And then, you know, follow us. Watch my streams. Dan's D&D game moved to Wednesday nights, so the streams are going to move to Thursday nights now. Thursday, 7 p.m. on Twitch, twitch.tv/CKCC online. I'm playing through the entire Super Nintendo library just to say I've played every single game. Even if I only play it for 10 minutes. Just so I can say that I've done it. And I've played 10 games already. I have way more to go. But I'm going to do the entire library. And it's going to be fun, and I can't wait to keep playing. And I'm having so much fun with it, I might, if Dan's available, I might do multiple streams a week. I might increase it to 2 to get more content out there. And become a patron, patreon.com/clubkayfabe. You get early access to all of these videos. The only exceptions are the Sporkle quizzes because they're short. And we recorded a lot of them already, so I'm kind of just putting them out one day at a time. But you'll get early access to the stream immediately if you weren't able to watch it. You get early access to all the Trivia Night episodes, any more 20 pictures that we do, any of that stuff, you get early access. And you get priority content control. So if a patron puts out a Sporkle request, or a topic for the show, or requests to join us, they get priority. That's your perk as a patron, because we wouldn't be able to pull this off without our patrons. So we thank you guys. All right. Well, Eric, we gave them just under 2.5 hours of content. Do you have any last words?
Be excellent to one another.
That's how you got to do it. We'll see you guys next time.